Hey there, it's time for another Devil's Due movie review. This time, we're covering the 1985 comedy by Martin Scorsese, After Hours. Now, Martin Scorsese is most famous for, let's be honest, gangster films. Goodfellas, Mean Streets, things like that. And as far as dabbling in comedy, Kings of Comedy is probably the only thing I've seen where where comedy was a large part of it. Like in Goodfellas, a lot of the dialogue had humorous moments, but it wasn't a funny movie overall. It was more drama. But Kings of Comedy, comedy thriller. After Hours is probably the closest I think Martin Scorsese has ever gotten to full true comedy in his feature length movies. I've seen some of his early shorts, and some of those were definitely um, comedic in tone, but again, that's like a 5-10 minute video. Um, anyway, that being said, After Hours, 1985 film, and when people name Martin Scorsese and some of his best work, it almost never comes up, despite being a pretty funny dark comedy, and I think being way ahead of its time. Now, this movie worldwide theatrically only grossed $10 million. That is not a lot. And also, with the heights that Scorsese would go on to reach, that is actually really shocking. But despite the low box office turnout, the movie has always had a pretty good critical response. Now, when I tell you about the cast, it's going to sound stacked. You've got Rosanna Arquette, Cheech and Chong, Linda Fiorentino, Terry Garr, John Hurd, Catherine O'Hara, character actors Will Patton, who you'd probably recognize the face even if you don't know the name, Dick Miller, who most people probably remember as the guy who suspected gremlins in the Gremlins movies. He's been in a ton of other stuff too, but that's what most people probably know him for. It also has Bronson Pinchot, who is most famous probably for either his small role in the Beverly Hills Cop films or his sitcom Perfect Strangers, where he played crazy cousin Balky. Anyway, as you can see, a lot of big names in the cast. What's it actually about, though? Well, being a Martin Scorsese film, it definitely has its heart set in New York. Except this is kind of the late night underbelly of New York, and starts out with a guy who, by day, he works on computers. This is in the 1980s, so the computers are a little more specialized field than modern day. Not quite as ubiquitous. He works on computers in an office. He goes home, and in a restaurant, he meets an attractive young lady. They talk. They exchange numbers. He's obviously smitten with her, and she gives him enough positive signals. He thinks, he should give her a call. To his surprise, she immediately wants to meet a couple of hours later, and it's already late. It's already past midnight. Basically, the whole movie from this point takes place from like 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. the next morning. This guy goes out for a date, and things slowly start to feel wrong. And instead of just calling it and going home, he keeps on trying, and things snowball and compound, and coincidences come together. And no, not to spoil anything major, but things escalate to the point where eventually he's being chased by a vigilante mob through the streets of New York. It gets really over the top towards the end, but the escalation is slow enough to where you're not shocked by it. It all kind of seems like, oh yeah, that would follow that. And dark sense of humor. Everything's going wrong for this guy. He's being thrown under the bus left and right for all kinds of different things. And while he's running from the mob, the angry mob of people. He's hiding on a fire escape and just peeks in a window and sees a woman shoot her husband like 5 times in the chest. And he just kind of sighs and says, I'm probably going to get blamed for this too. And that's the kind of tone the movie has, where some shocking things happen, but it's just a punchline. It's kind of a mean spirited comedy in a lot of ways. The main character is just getting put through the ringer. Nothing in the movie has really happened to justify the bad luck, or it's not like karma. It's just kind of the way that night's going for him. Relatively unknown movie. I know that the critical praise got it a Criterion release. So if you like their fancy special editions with the cleaned up film restoration, that's probably a good one to watch. I just streamed it on one of the many streaming services out there. Thinking about buying a copy now though, because I really enjoyed the film, and as I'm trying to be a Martin Scorsese completionist, but he really hasn't stopped working. But After Hours is definitely, in my opinion, nice change of pace from his other work, but still very well made, very entertaining. Um, Check it out. You won't regret it unless you're like super sensitive. Then some of the jokes may rub you the wrong way because they they use a lot of touchy topics as a punchline in the course of the movie. But to my thinking in this day and age, that's a positive because it makes it stand out where a lot of people want to play it safe. Till next time.